Hello. So, good evening, everyone. It's so good to see all of us every Wednesday together, keeping our dates with God. Tonight we have a few new people, I think, and the rest of us have been the faithful ones. So, congrats to everybody. I really like the dynamic that we just saw, in the video of becoming grateful to God for all the good things that is happening and including the things that didn't go so well this week. So how have you been? Can I see perhaps emotions to show how you are today, or you want to text in the chat box? Has it been this week? So okay, thank you. Some of you are feeling okay. I hope everyone is all right. Okay, so as Jewel introduced earlier, we are going to start a new series today. And the series is actually the series of incarnation, of Jesus inviting us to walk his way. Okay, not our way, but to walk the way of Jesus. So tonight, I will start with the first invitation to walk in the footsteps of humility. I think you have guessed that, no? From the song, The Humble King. We are invited by Jesus to take and walk the step of humility. And later on, we will deepen on the other aspects, to walk in the footsteps of poverty, chastity, obedience, generosity, and all different attitudes, that we can see in Jesus. Maybe some of you will be thinking, but sister, we are not religious people. Why poverty, chastity, obedience is only for you, not for me? I see a smile on the face of Anne. Okay, so if you remember, by baptism, all of us are called, to follow Christ. And Jesus himself lived a life of poverty, chastity, and obedience, which means that all of us at baptism, we actually say yes. Some of us are baby when you are in baptized, right? Your yes was a cry or whatever, no? But actually what it means is to live a life simple, humble, pure, chaste, obedient to God. So what exactly is this, that we are deepening today? So if Sheila could flash the prayer sheet alongside my guidelines, in Micah, sorry to stop the music. Okay, in Micah 6-8, what God is actually looking for in us is to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly. Okay, and this is what makes God's delight in our lives. How can we walk humbly with God? Maybe as a form of prayer tonight, we can begin asking ourselves or asking God, God, what kind of person have I been? Do you see me as someone proud and arrogant? Or do people call us, oh, you are so stuck up? No, I'm not sure if people see us that way. Sometimes we know of people who are very intellectual, who are a bit like very uppity here and unapproachable, So and maybe sometimes we feel like people like that may be a bit proud, a bit distant, So maybe we ask ourselves, Lord, do I come across to people as someone unapproachable, arrogant, or am I someone down to earth? Am I someone willing to show who I really am? Okay, so in your prayer, please ask Jesus this question and let Jesus answer you, okay? And if I were to also ask you, if you were to stop and ask yourself, if I were to ask you to name a person in your life who has been very humble, who would it be? If I ask you to name a person or two whom for you is a humble person, who would it be? Can you think of any? And if you have someone in mind, what kind of qualities do you find in this person? Please feel free to type in the chat box to show me what kind of qualities do you see in a humble person. Okay, I'll give you a short second of break to type the qualities of a humble person in your opinion. So keep it coming. I need some response to make sure that you are still with me in my guidelines. Okay, for Marites, it's your father, okay? Show me the qualities. What are the qualities you see in these people whom you call humble? Okay, for Jewel, is someone simple? Any more? Okay, so someone who is altruistic, okay? Keep it coming. Unassuming, okay? Any more? Never ask for something in return, okay? Generous, right? Okay, so what about the Lord? What does the Lord think, when he thinks of someone humble? Okay, for Maritesa, always considers others before himself. Okay, that's very good. Okay, well, I'm just going to turn off my Viber so it won't make noise, okay? So in the Bible, actually, can you name a person whom God himself said, this is a humble man? Come on, this is a Bible quiz. I will give you I will give you a clue. It's in the Old Testament. Okay, think of someone in office mate, down to earth. The children, yeah, very humble. What else? In the Old Testament, there was one prophet that God said, this is a humble man. Keep it coming. Can you make a guess? Anybody? Moses! Kimberly, you have the first prize. So now in Numbers 12:3, you can check out your Bible later. No, Numbers 12:3, it says, now Moses was very humble. In the eyes of God, Moses was very humble, more than any man who was on the face of the earth. Okay, now look into the life of Moses. Tell me, what about him that is humble in the eyes of God? Okay, give me answers in the text box. What do you see in Moses? Why is he humble in the eyes of God? Okay, Kimberly, look like you are a follower of Moses, huh? A good follower and a listener. Okay, very good. Being obedient. Okay, what else? Do you know Moses? Think about his stories, his life. What is it in him that you think can make him so humble in the eyes of God? Okay, so don't worry, while you are still thinking and praying, self-effacing. Okay, now, we all know that Moses was actually born, he was born a slave, isn't it? A Hebrew. But he was adopted and he lived in the palace as a prince. I think if you have not watched The Prince of Egypt, you can watch it tonight, So we all know that he was actually born a slave, but he grew up as a prince. But later in his life, when he found out his true identity, what did he do? Imagine yourself. Imagine yourself. If you were born in a very poor family and then you were adopted in a very, very rich family, living like a prince, like a princess, And the day you found out your true identity, what would you do? Perhaps some of us would really, really hide the true identity, tell nobody about it. No, keep it that way, that I am the princess of the world. But Moses, after he found out his true identity, he actually decided to leave his palace, to live his luxurious life, and to become a normal, ordinary Hebrew. And for me, this is really an act of, humility, of accepting who he really is without feeling shame, without feeling bad about it. Whereas for us or in the world, many times we try to hide our vulnerability. Many times we try to hide our weaknesses, and we want to show to the others our strong front, our, the goody part of us. But Moses, he was very in touch with himself. He knew he was a sinner. Remember, he killed the Egyptian. He was very aware of his faults, of his wrongdoings. And in humility, he also accepted the responsibility of leading the Israelites out of slavery, even though he knew that he was not the best. No, he startled, he had a lot of fears. But the fact that he was obedient to God. And so in every step of the way, Moses had to depend on God, to depend on what God say next, how to lead the people, how to face Pharaoh, who was terrible, unjust, oppressing. So Moses' humility was shown in being so transparent before God, so dependent on God, so faithful in carrying out God's instruction day after day. Today, let us ask for a gift of humility. Lord, help me. Help me to be like Moses, to be humble, to be vulnerable in front of you and to others. In 1 Peter 5, God gives graces to the humble. So if today we were to humble ourselves a little, God will give us grace. He will give us the grace of conversion. He will teach us how to walk the path of humility. So perhaps one of the ways we can ask for conversion is to evaluate ourselves. What are the defenses, mechanisms, or behavior in us that still shows a lack of humility? For example, for some of us, it's really difficult to accept failures and admit mistakes, isn't it? How many of you dare to say, I am like that? Put it in the chat box. That we are afraid, no? To tell people, oh, I made a mistake. I made an error here. Many times we try to cover it up. Or worse, we try to find someone to blame. No, it's not my fault. Somebody else did this. Sometimes we find scapegoats, no? When things goes wrong. Always finding someone to blame for whatever goes wrong, no? Or there are times when we can be a little boastful of our own achievements, of our own talents and gifts. Or there are times when we promote ourselves more than we promote others. Or we try to prove ourselves, our worth. Or even the being afraid to lose. Are you afraid to lose? I think all of us are afraid to lose face, right? To be humiliated. All of us are afraid to lose face, to lose to others. What about sometimes the lack of humility can come in the form of, I'm already good. I don't need to change. The one who needs to change is my husband. Oh, the one that needs to change is my boss. But me, no, I'm good enough. Okay? Or sometimes even the failure to acknowledge that everything we have comes from God. I'm not sure, no, even in the aspect of when you walk along the streets, when you travel, and when you see a poor person begging, do you sometimes feel that this person is less off than you? Just because the person is poor, has no means? What about lack of humility can come in the form of aggression, when we can become very imposing. I need it now. No, I want it this way. There's no room for discussion. No, or we can come across controlling or threatening, or in a form of abuse of power. And I think we all know, no, in the office, we hate it, when people boss over us, when they use their authority and they make life very miserable for us. Am I speaking sense here? I can see some smile on your face. Hopefully we are not the one, no, bossing people around. So tonight, perhaps it's a good time for us to examine our conscience. Lord, teach me to be a little more humble, a little more. So for us to be more concrete in our prayer, no, we can choose. I give you options, no. The first option is perhaps to say sorry, especially those people who often do not like to say sorry. No, one of the way to be humble is to say sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry because I did not consider your concern. I'm so sorry because I made decision without asking you. I'm so sorry because I said these things and it might have hurt you. How often do you say sorry? Have you said sorry this week? Today? In the last 1 month? Hopefully not in the last 1 year. No, when was the last time you actually say sorry to someone? Or even sorry to God? Okay? And the second, perhaps in our prayer we can ask, Lord, how can I reduce my defensiveness when someone corrects me? When someone tries to tell us our, how to improve, or how we can do things better, or things that we didn't do quite right, what is your response? Do you put a smile and behind in the mind you say, watch out, wait till I see you make a mistake next? What are your defenses? Some of us will keep quiet, but we will be angry. Some of us will just isolate, withdraw, don't talk to you, give you cold treatment, no? Some of us will have revengeful thoughts, distrust, like I'm never going to tell you anything anymore. These are prideful, revengeful mechanisms, no, that we exhibit day after day. So perhaps we can ask Jesus, change me, change me, Lord. And the third way, which is very difficult, is the way that Jesus himself showed us. In the passage that I put here, Jesus actually said, woe to the hypocrites. Have you ever dared to say that to anyone? You hypocrites! I think in our culture, in the Filipino culture, bawal. Not allowed, right? Have you ever dared to say to someone, hey, you are so proud? Well, Jesus was very direct here, He said, woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. It seems to me that Jesus was generalizing, like all teachers of the law, all the Pharisees are hypocrites, And then he says, you are like whitewashed tombs, which looks beautiful on the outside, but inside you are dead bones, unclean. Wow, this is very strong. I mean, like if, imagine Jesus says to you, you are just appearance, you look good, you appear good, holy, nice, but inside, immorality, you do terrible things, you gossip, That's terrible, isn't it? But actually, there is a tinge of hypocrisy in all of us. Don't you agree? Don't you agree that all of us, including me, sometimes we are hypocrites, no? We appear with a smile, we appear nice, but behind, maybe we are already nagging, no? Like complaining, putting down the other person. So tonight, besides humbling ourselves, Jesus invites us. How about daring to prick the arrogance of others? Do you dare? Are you afraid to that these people will become your enemies? Jesus was not afraid. Jesus was not afraid that they will kill him one day. And they did. No, they plotted to kill him because he was so direct. Are you afraid to die for Christ? Are you afraid to speak the truth when you are required to speak the truth? This third invitation for me is difficult because it requires the highest level of love, of humility. So tonight, let us ask the grace of humility, Lord. It's difficult, but I know, Lord, you can make me humble bit by bit, cm by cm, no? Little by little. And Jesus says in Matthew 11, come to me, all you who feel that you cannot, you feel weary, you feel you are far off, I will be the one to give you rest. Learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. And as Bing was saying, no, in the Bible, the children are the one who won the crown of humility. Jesus says, let the children come. Don't hinder them because they are the ones who knows how to be humble. Have you ever thought why children are symbol of humility? Can you make some guess and show me in the text box? Why do you think that in the Bible, children are referred to as humble? Are your children humble? Okay. You might be thinking, oh, the nasty ones, the children are not humble, right? Okay. So we are looking at the aspects, you're right, the innocence of a child, their purity when they do not manipulate adults like the way we do to them. Their carefreeness, they are free. They don't think of themselves seriously, yeah. So we are invited, to be like a child in front of God. Eager to learn, that's nice, okay? They are not manipulative. They normally do not have malice. So tonight, I invite you. I have some questions on the next page. If Sheila were to flash. In the next page, actually, there are some 3 questions. No, you can take a picture of this page. To whom is Jesus inviting you to say sorry? Okay, to practice saying sorry. Second, what are my prideful defense mechanisms when people kind of like point out my wrongs or failings? And the third point is, how is Jesus inviting me to prick the bubble of arrogance of someone, whom perhaps we find hypocritical? And these are some of the qualities that kind of like that shows the lack of humility. So maybe you can take a picture of this so that in the time of prayer we can stay with the passage and at the same time ask God for the grace of conversion. Don't do all 3, maybe it's difficult. No, just choose one and stick with it for the whole week and try to practice what that means for you. So thank you, Lord, for tonight, for this invitation to start to learn from you, to be humble, Teach us, Lord, to be like little children in our prayer, in our relationship with others. Help us to drop our defenses. Help us not to just focus on ourselves, but to focus on you and to focus on how we can uplift others, promote others, rather than control them or put our authority over them. Glory be to the Father, to the Son, to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen.